The room didn't simply quiet down, it contracted, like every breath was pulled into the gravitational field of one man. Marcus. Billionaire. Visionary. Tyrant Tailored. He leaned back, slow and rehearsed. The way only someone who has spent his entire life being told he's the smartest person in every room can lean back. The cameras caught the glint of his cufflinks, custom, imported, noxious, and the half-smile curling at the edge of his mouth. That smile wasn't confidence. It was ownership. As if the hearing, the Congress, even the country itself were just satellites orbiting him. He cleared his throat, leaned toward the mic with the casual arrogance of a man who believes microphones exist to flatter his voice, and delivered the line that would ignite a digital wildfire. "I appreciate your passion," he said, letting the pause hang like a trap. "But you clearly don't understand how companies of this scale operate. Leave the grown-up conversations to those of us who built something." A few people chuckled, tiny, nervous sounds from those conditioned to laugh when power expects them to. But the cameras weren't on them. They were on the young woman sitting across from him. Lena Ortiz, whistleblower, former employee. The spark that brought this tech empire to its first real moment of accountability. She didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't drop her gaze. Instead, she folded her hands, slow and steady, the posture of someone who has spent a lifetime surviving. Men who mistake arrogance for intelligence. Her eyes locked onto his, calm and unblinking, and something shifted. Not in her, she was unshakable. In the room, in the air, in the certainty Marcus Hale carried. So casually because everyone watching felt the same thing at the same time. That smirk. He was going to regret it. What no one in that room knew? Not the committee members, not the moderators, not even Marcus himself, was that this single, dismissive moment would become the spark that detonated the entire narrative. And Lena. She was only getting started. The laughter wasn't loud. It wasn't confident. It wasn't even real. It was the kind of uneasy chuckle people release when they're not sure whether they witnessed arrogance, or authority, insult, or leadership. A few committee members shifted in their seats, eyes darting toward each other. No one stepped in. No one challenged him, because this is what Marcus Hale was used to. A world where silence defaults to his side. The cameras obeyed old instincts too. They swiveled toward him automatically, zooming in on the billionaire whose wealth had always made him the center of gravity. Every lens, every angle, every operator trained like satellites locking onto their sun. He basked in it. For a moment, Marcus truly believed he had won the room with a single smirk and a condescending line. But the real shift, the one that mattered, didn't come from the cameras. It came from her. Lena Ortiz didn't fidget. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't break into defensive explanations like he expected. She just sat there, calm, composed, still as stone but sharp as a blade. Her expression was unreadable, but her presence was unmistakable. And that stillness, that quiet steadiness, began to bend the room in her direction. A staffer in the second row stopped typing, eyes lifting toward her instead of him. A journalist lowered their camera slightly, confused by the lack of reaction. Even a few committee members found themselves studying her, waiting, sensing something they couldn't articulate. Something was happening. Something Marcus Hale, in all his privileged confidence, completely missed. Because when a man expects fear and receives silence instead, the power dynamic begins to fracture. The room wasn't reacting the way he imagined. No, oh no, submission. No triumphant shift in his favor. Just a slow, steady, unmistakable tilt toward her and the irony. The more Marcus basked in his assumed dominance, the more obvious it became that the center of attention was no longer the billionaire who built an empire, but the whistleblower who was about to bring it to its knees. Long before he smirked across that hearing table, Marcus Hale had been constructing a myth, one built on polished keynote speeches, glossy magazine covers, and the carefully crafted illusion of a visionary to the world. He was the tech messiah, The genius coder who started with nothing. The self-made billionaire who turned a garage startup into a global empire. The man whose every conference appearance ended with CEOs lining up just to shake his hand. But the truth behind Marcus Hale's rise was far less poetic and far more orchestrated. Yes, he built a company, but he also built something else. A system that protected him. A culture that worshipped him. An environment where disagreement wasn't just discouraged, it was punished. Inside Hell Dynamics. People whispered his name the way employees in old factories whispered about their foreman, with caution, not admiration. He loved being feared. He depended on being respected. But he absolutely required one thing above all, control. And when control slipped, even for a second, Marcus Hale reacted with the kind of quiet fury only billionaires are allowed to express, not through yelling, but through a raised eyebrow, a clipped email, an assistant reassigned to another department. He didn't need to threaten. His presence was the threat. Colleagues learned to nod, to agree, to praise his every idea, even the ones built on sand. Investors showered him with money. Journalists wrote glowing profiles, and fans online hailed him as the future of America. But behind the scenes, the cracks showed. Turnover rates skyrocketed. Anonymous forums filled with horror stories from former employees. Internal complaints were buried often literally under non-disclosure agreements. And the one rumor that kept resurfacing. Do not contradict him. Marcus Hale had achieved something few figures in American business ever do. He built an empire so large no one dared tell him when he was wrong, which meant that when Lena Ortiz, a junior analyst with no pedigree, no wealth, no elite background, submitted her first internal report warning about safety falsifications, he didn't read it. He didn't consider it. He didn't even pretend to take it seriously. He smirked. He dismissed. He shrugged it off like lint from his luxury suit. Because in Marcus Hale's world, truth was optional as long as money kept flowing and cameras stayed friendly. He didn't know it then. But that single moment of arrogance, that decision to ignore a woman he underestimated, was the first domino in the chain reaction that led him to that hearing table. And the person he'd brushed aside was now sitting across from him. Prepared and holding the receipts that could unravel everything he built. Marcus Hale's empire wasn't about to fall because of an equal. It was about to fall because he pushed aside the one person who refused to stay silent, but he still had no idea. Because what happened next didn't just crack his facade, it shattered it before Lena Ortiz ever sat beneath the blinding cameras of a congressional hearing. Before journalists scrambled to learn her name, before millions online hailed her as the whistleblower who stood up to a billionaire, she was just a girl from a neighborhood the world rarely put on maps. Lena grew up where sidewalks cracked under summer heat, where parents worked double shifts, where kids learned early that dreams didn't come prepackaged. You had to fight for them. Her mother was a nurse. Her father was a mechanic. They didn't talk about stock options or venture capital. They talked about rent, bills, and whether the refrigerator would last another year. But what Lena lacked in privilege, she made up for with something Marcus Hale could never buy: perspective. She understood people, real people. Because she lived among them, she watched neighbors struggle with layoffs and hospital bills. She saw workers breaking their backs for companies that treated them as replaceable. She learned early that fairness wasn't guaranteed. It was something you had to insist on. Lena wasn't the loudest. She wasn't the strongest. But she had a quiet, relentless fire, the kind that grows in kids who are always underestimated. Teachers said she was polite, but too intense. Bosses called her sharp, but too outspoken. Her guidance counselor suggested she'd aim lower when she said she wanted a career in tech. Aim lower. She'd hear that phrase. For years, she'd never listened. At community college, she juggled 2 jobs: front desk at a gym in the mornings, waitressing at a diner at night. Between shifts, she coded. She studied databases, safety systems, robotics, cybersecurity, the unglamorous, deeply important stuff no one celebrated. She didn't learn to impress people. She learned to make things work. Her talent didn't come from prestige. It came from persistence. By the time she transferred to a state university, professors didn't just admire her, They relied on her. She graduated with top honors. No trust fund. No legacy admissions. No secret connections, just grit. So when she landed a job at Hale Dynamics, the crown jewel of American tech innovation, her parents celebrated like she'd won a Nobel Prize to them. Working at Marcus Hale's empire meant stability, respect, a future, but Lena saw something different from the moment she walked in. A culture that worshipped profit but ignored problems. A workplace where speaking up meant fading into the background or out the door. A company where the CEO was treated like royalty and workers were expected to stay silent. Still, she believed in the mission. She believed technology could save lives until she discovered the reports, the missing safety checks, the ignored warnings, the falsified documents, and worst of all, the injury records that were never supposed to exist. That was the moment Lena's life forked into two paths. Stay quiet, keep her job, protect herself. Or expose the truth and protect the people who'd never meet her. CEO in their lifetime, she chose the second path, the harder one, the dangerous one, the one almost no one expects from a junior analyst with everything to lose. And the moment she made that decision, she stepped onto a collision course with the most powerful man she'd ever come face to face with. A billionaire who had everything to protect. A young woman who had nothing to hide. Their worlds were destined to collide. And when they finally did, the explosion shook more than just the room. Because the next moment in this story is when the pressure finally breaks. Marcus Hale keeps talking, not because he needs to, but because he's convinced the room wants to hear him. He leans toward the mic like it's his stage, his words rolling out with the casual arrogance of someone who has never been interrupted in his life. He lists achievements. He name-drops investors. He talks about vision, scaling, the brilliance of his leadership. Every sentence feels like a performance he's perfected. Camera crews swing toward him automatically, because he looks like the center of power. But something subtle begins to shift. A congressional aide in the back crosses her arms. A reporter stops typing and just watches. An older lawmaker raises an eyebrow when Marcus interrupts a question to clarify something important. None of this registers for him because Marcus doesn't see what the cameras are starting to capture. Lena's silence is getting louder. She sits perfectly still, hands folded, eyes forward. Not a muscle in her face betraying irritation or insecurity. It's a posture that Marcus misreads as fear, but the room is beginning to read as something else. It's entirely calm and control while he talks over her. Talks around her, talks through her. Lena listens, and with every dismissive gesture he makes, the spectators start shifting their focus. Toward her, the imbalance sharpens. Marcus grows grander in his gestures, more dramatic with his examples as though trying to drown her out. T-EMPTIVL. It's the classic mistake of men like him, confusing volume with strength. A lawmaker asks Lena a question. Marcus interrupts. A reporter directs a follow-up toward Lena. Marcus answers it himself, every time he cuts in. He chips away at his own authority without even realizing it. Because the more he speaks, the more desperate he sounds, like a man who isn't arguing the facts, but protecting the illusion of control. The air thickens, tightens as if the room is holding its breath. Waiting, Lena finally looks up. Just a small movement, but it's enough. A camera pivots toward her. A journalist leans forward, sensing something. Even a skeptical lawmaker glances over, eyebrow raised. The energy shifts. Not all at once, but like a tide turning. Quietly, undeniably. Marcus keeps talking. But now his words seem to echo instead of landing. The room's attention has drifted to the woman he tried to belittle. And for the first time, Marcus feels it. A faint tremor in his confidence. A tightening in his jaw. A flicker of annoyance in his eyes. He tries to speak louder. But louder doesn't bring the room back. Because this story has stopped being about him. It's about the silence. He's trying so hard to overpower. And the person who is about to break it. And when she finally does, it won't just interrupt him. It will flip the entire room. Or a moment. The hearing room is frozen. Marcus Hale is still talking louder, faster, more desperately polished than ever. But the room isn't listening anymore. They're watching her. Lena Ortiz lifts her gaze. And the shift is so subtle, so precise, that it feels like the sound has been sucked out of the air. She doesn't adjust her mic. She doesn't clear her throat. She doesn't perform. She simply begins. "Mr. Hale," "Whoosh," she says softly, but the softness is intentional. A scalpel, not a whisper. The room hears it. Marcus does too. He stiffens. "You say, I don't understand how companies of this scale operate," she continues, every word landing with quiet accuracy, "but I worked inside the one you built." A few heads snap up. Cameras zoom in. Marcus blinks. Lena keeps going. "I worked 12-hour days. I saw the safety reports you called inconvenient. I saw the flagged data your executives buried. I saw the internal emails warning you that workers were being injured. And I watched those emails mysteriously disappear from the servers." A low gasp ripples through the room. Not dramatic. Not loud, but real. Marcus shifts in his seat, trying to interrupt Ms. Ortiz. I don't think she raises a hand. Not aggressively. Just enough to show she's not done. "Please don't interrupt. You've spoken for 30 minutes. I need only 3. The room reacts, reporters scribbling faster. Aide whispering, "Oh wow," a congresswoman biting back the beginnings of a smile. Marcus opens his mouth again. But this time, a committee member cuts him off. "Let her speak," freezes. And this time, the silence belongs to Lena. She continues. "Steady as steel, you said this hearing was for the grown-ups. Well, the grown-ups read the documents you tried to hide. The grown-ups listened to the workers you ignored. And the grown-ups understand the cost of cutting safety corners so your stock would go up 2%. Marcus's face tightens. His jaw pulses. Lena leans forward for the first time. "You've built something, yes? But you didn't build it alone. And you didn't build it honestly." Cameras zoom so close you can see the panic forming behind. It's Marcus's eyes. The audience feels it, the turning of the tide, the reversal of power. Lena's voice sharpens slightly. "You told me to leave the grown-up conversations to you. But grown-ups take responsibility. Grown-ups don't hide injuries. Grown-ups don't delete evidence. Grown-ups don't gamble with people's lives and call it innovation." A murmur sweeps across the room, the kind of reaction that signals a narrative flipping in real time. Marcus tries again. Now hold on, but he's interrupted by applause. It starts as a small clap from someone, sitting in the far corner. Then another. Then a wave. The committee chair bangs the gavel for order. But the damage, or rather, the justice is done. Lena sits back, composed, not triumphant, not smug, just grounded, like someone who told the truth and is willing to live in its light.
Marcus,
By contrast, looks smaller, not physically, but in presence, his performance script has burned to ash, and he has nothing left to hide behind. Lena delivers her final line. "I'm not here to diminish what you built, Mr. Hale. I'm here to show what it cost. Because the truth is the one thing you can't delete." The hearing room explodes, gasps, whispers, frantic typing. Marcus stares straight ahead, as if hoping stillness will shield him. It won't. Not after this. Because outside that hearing room, the real shockwaves are about to hit. The clip doesn't just spread, it detonates. Within 4 minutes, the moment Lena Ortiz says, "The truth is the one thing you can't delete," is ripped from the live hearing feed and uploaded everywhere: Twitter, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Reddit, Discord, even WhatsApp family, group chats. It becomes unavoidable, and each platform gives it a life of its own. The first viral edit hits 1 million views in under an hour. A teenager overlays dramatic music. Slowing the moment, Marcus's smirk vanishes. The caption reads, "When the intern ends the CEO's whole career." Another user posts a side-by-side reaction video, jaw dropped, pointing at the screen like they're witnessing a historic knockout in real time. Then comes the trend. #3 minutes challenge. TikTokers post clips of moments where someone only needed 3 minutes To expose the truth, Lena's original clip becomes the template. Hashtags flood the feed. Hashtag Hale. Exposed hashtag truth can't be deleted. Hashtag Lena Ortiz hash through minutes by sunrise. The soundbite is in over 120,000 TikTok edits. Political accounts, comedians, activists, and even late-night hosts all pile in. A legal analyst tweets, "This wasn't a testimony. It was a masterclass." Comedian writes, "Marcus Hale asked for grown-ups. Lena became the entire parent." Someone posts a screenshot of Marcus's frozen face when you realize she has receipts. Another user compares the moment to watching a skyscraper collapse in slow motion. You can literally see the exact second his PR team starts. Screaming is the hashtag Hale exposed. Hits #1 trending in the US and #3 worldwide. Experts begin posting their full analyses. A tech ethics professor uploads a 12-minute video titled, "The Day Marcus Hale Lost Control." A lawyer posts, "This is exactly how you dismantle corporate evasiveness." Tech insiders go deeper, explaining how deleted safety emails usually signal a cover-up. Reaction channels release breakdowns that frame Lena as the unexpected hero of accountability. Graphic designers turn the moment into cinematic posters. Lena facing a spotlight with the text, 3 minutes. Marcus in grayscale, cracked like a shattered statue. Split-screen posters reading, "Truth versus power. Control versus accountability." Stories blow up with reposts. Even celebrities who've never heard of Marcus Hale share the clip with captions like, "This is how you do." Whistleblower communities and watchdog groups start digging, one user posts. "Is anyone surprised? I worked at Hale Systems. This tracks." Hale Systems employees, past and present, begin sharing anonymous accounts, stacking testimony on testimony until a full picture of misconduct emerges. A moderator comments, "There's more to this story," and Reddit listens. Young workers feel vindicated. Parents share the clip with their kids. Union organizers call it the most accurate takedown of corporate arrogance in years. One viral comment reads, "Lena didn't raise her voice once. She just raised the truth." Another, "Every woman who's ever been talked down to felt this in their bones." Journalists start writing think pieces. Talk shows debate the fallout. Stock analysts discuss whether the company will recover. Politicians issue statements demanding an inquiry. And Marcus Hale, he goes silent. For the first time in his very public, very loud career, he stops talking. Because he knows, and the world knows, this isn't going away. Not today. Not tomorrow. Maybe not ever, but the biggest impact isn't on the internet. It's on Lena herself. Because after igniting a nationwide conversation, she's about to discover something unexpected and far more personal when the noise finally begins to settle after the trends. After the avalanche of memes that turn Marcus Hale into a symbol of crumbling arrogance, something quieter begins to rise. Something deeper. Because beyond the entertainment value, beyond the spectacle of a billionaire CEO being humbled on live television, Lena's response touches a different nerve, one that millions recognize instantly. This wasn't just a takedown. It was a blueprint, a reminder, a mirror, and for many, it was the first time they'd ever seen someone calmly dismantle the exact kind of condescension they've been fighting. Their whole lives, it's not just corporate. Workers who connected with Lena, it's anyone who's ever been talked down to by someone? With more money, more power, more connections. More ego? It's anyone whose intelligence was questioned because they didn't come from the right background. It's anyone who had a boss who raised an eyebrow at them the way Marcus raised his at Lena. It's anyone who has walked into a room and felt like they had to earn what some people receive automatically. Basic respect. Lena's calm, controlled, razor-sharp response became a kind of emotional release for everyone who wished they could respond like that when someone tried to make them small. Her message wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't theatrical. It was steady. And in that steadiness, people found something rare. Dignity doesn't whisper weakness, it whispers certainty. Her confidence didn't come from her resume or her status, or her title. It came from lived truth. It came from having nothing to hide, nothing to apologize for. And that's why the moment resonated, because Marcus Hale's power was built on perception, on image, on wealth, on fear. Lena's power came from reality, from lived experience, from moral clarity, from the strength of someone who has been underestimated before and learned how to turn it into fuel. Teachers showed the clip to their students. Parents saved it for their daughters. Workers rewatched it before meetings with difficult bosses. Immigrants shared it with captions like, "We know this feeling." Women posted videos, describing the exact moment they felt their voice dismissed in rooms full of men who thought they were experts. People from working-class backgrounds said they felt seen for the first time in a corporate scandal narrative. One comment went viral across multiple platforms. Lena didn't win because she spoke loudly. She won because she spoke from truth. And nothing threatens the powerful more than someone who doesn't fear them. This wasn't just a debate. It was a cultural reset. It was a reminder that credentials don't make you honest. Money doesn't make you, right? Confidence doesn't come from arrogance. Real expertise doesn't need to shout. Lena showed that. Battles aren't always won through dominance. Sometimes they're won through clarity, through integrity, through knowing exactly who you are and refusing to let someone else define you. And that's why millions kept watching. Not because of the drama, but because of the dignity. By the end of the night, comment sections weren't just celebrating a viral moment. They were celebrating a shared truth. We've all met a Marcus Hale. We all wish we had a Lena Ortiz inside us. Her 3 minutes of calm truth did what shouting never could. It changed how people saw themselves. It changed how people walked into their workplaces the next day. It changed how they responded to the next person who tried to undermine them. And it left one question hanging in the air. A question no one can ignore. If one voice calm, steady, unapologetic can shake a billionaire, what happens when millions find that voice for themselves? So here we are. A single exchange in a hearing room, a smirk, it's an insult, a 3-minute response turned into a national reckoning. Marcus Hale tried to diminish her, tried to shrink her, tried to put her in her place, but instead, he revealed something far bigger. You cannot silence someone who knows exactly who they are. Lena didn't just defend herself. She reminded millions of people what it looks like to stand firmly in truth, in dignity, and in self-worth, without raising your voice once. And now this moment belongs to all of us. Because this wasn't just a CEO versus an employee. This was entitlement versus integrity. Power versus accountability. Arrogance versus courage. And courage won. The Billionaire. CEO vs. the Whistleblower was supposed to be a predictable story. The powerful man was supposed to dominate. The young whistleblower was supposed to break. But instead, she exposed the truth. He exposed himself, and the world saw it. If this moment made you proud, if it reminded you of your own strength, if it gave you that jolt of finally someone said it, then don't let it stop here. These stories aren't just political. They're personal. They're about every time someone underestimated you, every time you were talked down to, every time you had to fight twice as hard for half the respect. So tell your story in the comments. Share the moment that changed you. Let this community be a place where dignity rises louder than arrogance. Because when we lift voices like Lena's, we're really lifting our own. Subscribe if you want more stories where truth meets power and the unexpected hero wins. Like this video to push it to more people who need to feel seen today. Comment the last time you proved someone wrong without ever raising your voice. Share this clip with someone who needs the reminder. You don't need permission to be powerful. Because the next time a Marcus Hale tries to silence someone, let them remember what happened the day Lena Ortiz decided she wasn't going to be quiet anymore.